Hello and welcome to this week's This Is Media City. I'm Stephen Chapman and today I am joined by the one and only Mike Sweeney. He has done everything around here on the radio. He's also in a punk band, but we will talk everything from being influenced by John Lennon to being working class on the radio and even being a dock worker here at Salford Quays before anybody had even thought of Media City. Mike, thank you for making it across the piazza to
Pleasure.
This Is Media City. We've got loads and loads and loads of things I want to talk to you about, but we start all our podcasts with these, which are our icebreaker questions, to put you on the spot a bit and try and get into your mindset a little bit.
Okay.
So some random, pick a question, any question in.
There you go.
Biggest inspiration?
John Lennon.
Yeah?
Yep.
Why?
Well, the Beatles changed my life in 1963. I was living just down the road, and in the winter of 63 I went to, well, it's now the Academy on Trafford Road, but it was the Dock Mission then,
Yeah.
old building, Victorian building. We had you now call it a disco, so it was like a record hop. And I went down there on this night, walked from where I lived in Croft House, which is about a mile that way. And I remember exactly what I was wearing on the night. I had a pair of tight jeans on. They come skinnies now, don't they? So drain pipes,
Yeah.
black t-shirt,
Yeah.
donkey jacket with the collar turned up,
Nice.
medallion, and a studded belt in case I got in a fight. And on my feet, because I thought I looked like, and it was snowing and everything, I thought I looked like the lads on the waltzers on the fair. I had a pair of wellies with the top turned down. This is for a night
Oh,
out.
nice. For a disco.
Yeah. And
That's got to come back at some point, surely.
at some point, it hasn't yet. Donkey jackets have. So I walked down past Salford Lads Club, down Trafford Road to this place. The weather was awful, and it was the worst, probably the worst winter of the 20th century. 47 came near, so the whole of the country was frozen solid. So I got there, and it was fairly quiet, as you can imagine. And I went up to the guys playing the records. I don't even think we called them DJs then. And I said, could you play us the new Shadows song? Foot Tapper, I think. And he said, yeah, I'll play it after this. I was going to go back and get a Coke and a packet of crisps. He started this song and I just stopped. I just stood in the middle of the room for 2 minutes and 2 minutes, 20 seconds, whatever. And I just went back and said, I didn't ask him who it was. I just said, what was that? He said, it's the new single from the Beatles. But we knew who they were because they'd had Love Me Do.
Yeah.
Had been out in the October of 62. And we knew they looked different, and we knew that they were Scousers. They'd only been on local telly. Love Me Do's okay,
Yeah.
but it's Love Me Do, I Love You, Please Be True. I mean,
Yeah.
It's not the most revolutionary record in the world.
It's not the sort of thing you're listening to when you've got a belt ready for hitting people with.
No. And I heard Please Please Me.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And I'd never ever thought I could be in a band. Couldn't be Cliff Richard, couldn't be Billy Fury. I'm a scruff from Salford, a ginger scruff, Irish Catholic scruff from Salford. Couldn't be Elvis, couldn't be flipping Del Shannon or Bobby V from the States. But I thought I could be one of those guys. So obviously the music just took my life over then. And it took me from that moment until the summer of 65 to get anywhere near a band, and until 60 years ago, last month, for me to get my first proper band.
And that was a Salford. Yeah.
No, it was a band called Salford Jets, is miles further on.
Right, okay.
We were called the Speakeasy. No, we weren't. We were called the Sins of the Family.
Okay.
After a song by a folk singer-songwriter called P.F. Sloan. And that record changed my life. Obviously, you look at the Beatles, and you don't want to be one, but if it was going to be one, it'd be John.
Did you ever meet him?
No.
Have you done any? Yeah, I was going to say.
Met Paul since a couple of times, and Ringo was going to record one of the Salford Jet songs, and I saw his son about 6 months ago, Zach, and I said, "Is it true or is it false that your dad was going to record Gina, I've Got a Cortina?" And he said, "No, absolutely true." I remember he was about 15 or 16, and our bass player knew. His auntie was married to Klaus Voormann, who did the Beatles' sleeve for Revolver. So they all knew Ringo, and he went to Ringo's house with this song, and Ringo was going to record it. He didn't, but
It's
there's
a nice
history.
claim to fame, though, isn't
But
it?
yeah, but true.
Yeah.
Because I thought, yeah, it's one of those apocryphal tales, but no, apparently it's spot on.
I was going to give you another card, but honestly, that was the best one answer I could have asked for on that. Let's go to now. How are you doing? Because a lot of stuff's been happening about you had a stroke earlier on this year.
So January, I had tiny, use the word tiny, please.
Yeah.
Tiny stroke, just to show how stupid I am. 8 days later, I played football. I felt I had to.
You went to a doctor in between, though, did you?
Well, so I had this feeling that I wasn't great. I was filming for Morning Live, doing some telly.
Yeah.
And it was bitterly cold. We were in the northeast and just didn't feel great. And I went and sat in the car. Producer said, look, go and sit in the car, get warm. And he came back 5 minutes later, and I asked him later on, why did you come straight back? I said, Mike, you looked awful. I couldn't tell because I can't see my face.
Yeah.
I just felt, I ended up in A&E. 5 hours later, I felt great. And the consultant came in and I said, I was having a cup of tea and a butty, reading the paper. And I said, he said, how do you feel? I said, great, thanks. Can I go home? No, Mr. Sweeney, you can't go home. I said, why? He said, you've had a tiny stroke, which is a massive shock.
Yeah.
If you'd hit me with a baseball bat, I couldn't have had any more effect. So that happened in January. I'm really fortunate. I didn't have any of the symptoms anyway, the fast symptoms, although I have been fronting a campaign since to stop a stroke. But I was lucky. It had no after effects. So I went straight back to playing football, playing in a band, doing a full-time job, going to the gym, running.
Yeah, because you do a lot of exercise, don't you?
Part of that's vanity, because I am old. In less than 2 years, I'll be 80.
Yeah.
So you think, gee whiz. So, but I've got a young family. My daughter, my youngest, only 25, who's travelling the world at the moment after being at uni. And my wife's a lot younger than me. So I'm vain, and I want to keep looking decent, and I want to keep fit and strong. So, but I could go back to it. There was no reason I couldn't go back to it. But I've changed my lifestyle, and I won't do anything now that's stress related. So this came because somebody got in touch with me. I said, will you do it? Of course I will. I wouldn't have chased you.
Yeah.
The days of me phoning people up and saying, please can I be on TV? Please can I? No, because it's stressful. So that's a fundamental lifestyle change for me.
But what it has led to is the Stop a Stroke campaign that you're doing on Radio Manchester. And there was a news story a couple of days ago about a lady who listened to you.
We saved her life.
Yeah.
Genuinely. When she phoned us up, she said her blood pressure was so high that if she'd have gone to see a medical professional, that had put her in an ambulance and blue lighted her to A&E. That's how bad it was. And she said, if I hadn't have seen that and I hadn't have known, she said, I think you've saved my life.
And that is a kind of segue into your show on Radio Manchester, because you've been doing that for a while now, and you've kind of made it your own in a way that just people phone up and it's just advice and help and chat, and it's just one of those things that can only happen on BBC local radio, really, I imagine.
Yeah, it's 12 years we've been doing a phone in. I've been doing the programme 12 years in January, I think. Might be 13 years. And it's evolved. It's an organic thing. When we first started, I remember it felt quite contrived. I understood that as the way the BBC at the time was working, because it's quite a while ago. I thought it was contrived. I thought it was occasionally quite stilted and stiff. But as the years went on, and you've got to remember, so they've grown, my audience has grown 12 years with me, new people have joined it, etc. With me, what you see is what you get. So if I'm in the co-op, or the stores are available, I'm no different than I am now. And certain parts of my personality were no different when I was 18. I'm a broadcaster, that's what I do for a living. So people realise now they can trust me. That's why I had to tell everybody I'd had a stroke.
Mm.
You can't ask people to tell you about grief, about family trauma, about addiction. you can't ask them to be 100% honest and sometimes emotional with it. You can't say to them, do that, but I'll keep my life secret. So I tend to be as open with my life as I can be, and that I felt I had to share.
And does it feel like a job still?
No.
No.
No. I got out the car the other day. I get the tram in most of the time. I got to Ashton. There's a tram stop near the gym, so I'll drive to the tram stop, and when I come home at night, I can go straight to the gym from where the car is, because I don't like driving in. I've driven in today to do this. I don't like it. So I got out of the car. It was just starting to get slightly light. It was quite cold, bit of a rain, and I felt great. And I remember thinking, it's really good to be alive. I'm going to get on the tram now, read my paper for 45, 50 minutes. Isn't this a privilege? And get into this building and go and talk to, I don't know, 200,000 or 300,000 people.
The other person you get on quite a lot is some guy called Andy. The Great Manchester Mayor pops along to your show once a week, doesn't he?
So when COVID started, he got in touch with us and said, look, I want to communicate with the people that pay my wages. Can I come on the programme once a week? And he did. And it's, 5.5 years ago. I bet he's missed, I don't think he's missed 20. He's missed, rarely, I think he had a holiday this year and I gave him a bit of a rollicking. He can't be taking times off for holiday. He's been poorly now and then. He's been literally in Downing Street with the Prime Minister, having talks. Hardly ever misses a programme, every single week. And do you know, he doesn't have a PR department, I don't have a PR department, and the BBC doesn't have a PR department when that programme's on. No agenda from us. Everything is for that caller. Phone him, say what you want. We always say you've got to be courteous and adult. Apart from that, you pay his wages, you pay my wages. Give us a ring.
And you really do put him on the spot,
Yep.
like from late trams and buses,
Yep.
and then someone will phone up again and say, by the way, I asked you the other week about, have you done anything? And you really do put him. But also, I noticed you started the last week, I think you were asking about the national questions about the Labour Party as well. So I mean, you put him on the spot proper.
Well, we were on air the morning that the story broke in the media that he was in a position where he might end up being leader of the Labour Party. So obviously he came in, there was no media whatsoever. So the whole of the media in the UK and in the world, and we were getting calls from New York because the news channel on BBC TV ran it live, streamed it. And I can't exaggerate the impact that made talking about that story and the future for Andy Burnham. But my job is to hold him to account. My job is to make sure that if he answers a question and I think it's prevarication, then I try and circumnavigate that. And my job is also to sometimes ask the question that people haven't phoned in with. So I'm there to do a job, and of course he's there to do his job. And to be fair to him, I can't ever remember him, certainly can't remember him not answering a question with that, by answering the question with another question. So not the standard political response. And I think people respect that. I don't mean they have to like him, me, or the BBC, but I think people respect it.
And the other thing, was he on your show when news of the synagogue attack happened?
The week after.
The week after.
He came in, we knew that something had happened literally within that time span, with that last 30 minutes to an hour. And he got a statement from the police, delivered into the studio and read that out and broke the news on air.
It's something that I don't think any other local radio station has that ability, is it? Is that a special one that you've managed to wangle?
I'm sure that somebody might get in touch with you. Well, nobody ever has. I think we're the only BBC local radio station. We might be the only local radio station, and we're probably the only national radio station where a senior politician with a national profile comes on a programme every single week live and says to the general public, here I am, what do you want to know?
Wow. Now, that power of local radio, I'm assuming that's why you've always done it, because you've done Key. I mean, if I list off, if I list off every Manchester radio station over the last 30, 40 years, you probably tick them.
I did Piccadilly Key 103, went to London and did Capital Radio for 10 years.
How was that, though?
Amazing.
And how was that with your, dare I say, accent?
Great.
Yeah?
I can't do accents, but I used to get into, you're all right, you Sweeney. I can't do the accents, I'm like Dick Van Dyke. That worth, right? When I went there, the big sort of brand names were Man United, Take That, Oasis and Coronation Street.
Fair enough.
So I had less problems on Capital Radio from day one than I had when I initially went on Piccadilly Radio, when one woman got in touch with the station and said, you've hired a dog from the streets.
Wow.
She was from somewhere like Hale Barnes or Prestbury. She said, my children are speaking like that Mike Sweeney. You've hired a dog from the streets.
Gosh.
That was from somebody listening to Piccadilly Radio.
Has that changed? We had, I think it was Michelle Eagleton on here a bit ago, and she had said that they tried to train her voice out of her at one stage. Did they try and do that with you?
No,
I was
not on
going to say
Piccadilly Radio.
They failed.
They hired me for it.
Yeah.
They hired me for it. And Richard Parks did the same at Capital Radio.
Yeah.
When I went to see him, as we were about to put the programme together, and I won't do his voice, but he's got a very remarkable, he talks a bit like this, my boy. And he said, there's only me, Simon Cole, who was a consultant in the radio industry at the time, Andy Turner, who was his programme controller, Steve Penk, who'd introduced me to the station. That was it. They said, there's only us in the industry think that this is going to work. And I was there 10 years.
Yeah. Have you noticed the change? I mean, if you listen to Radio 2, everybody speaks like you now, don't they? But have you noticed that acceptance and change, presumably because of things like Media City and everything else?
No, not in all parts of the BBC, no.
No.
Nope.
But it's more accepting for you?
It's, the younger you get, the more it's going to happen. So Six Music, Radio 1, and Radio 2 to an extent, very much. The doors are now open for working class kids, basically. Yeah. And that's the future, not guys working class scruffs like me at my age, but for kids from my background, yes, there are doors. The last bastion of discrimination in the BBC is class. It's the last equality issue and inclusion issue. Until these kids, and there's some here with us today working with us, until they become the bosses, probably not. What happened in my immediate lifetime, don't think it'll happen while I'm still a broadcaster. In some parts, because you say, well, look at Vernon Kay and look at
Sarah Cox.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, and is it Paul McGuinness? Paddy. Sorry, Paddy. Paddy McGuinness. Of course, it's happening. All my colleagues, where I am at Radio Manchester, what if the BBC was like my floor, we wouldn't have a problem.
I know we've got a lot to cover, and I know you've not got much time, so I'm going to do a little bit of skipping here. Can I also ask you about your background? Because you didn't start as a broadcaster. You started out you worked here on the docks.
I was a docker, I was a coal miner, I used to work on building sites, I was a van driver.
And I want to know the idea that when you were a dock worker here to sitting here, how the change in Salford over your time, the idea that it can happen.
It's incredible. And I know that there's a school of thought doesn't like the supposed gentrification of Salford because of Media City. The city was dying. The city was dying, and you will say to me, you don't live in Salford anymore. I work in Salford, I come to Salford all the time. I went to a pub in Salford, I'm all right. I'm not living somewhere that I never go back home again. And this is home, and I wouldn't be who I am without this city, but it was decaying, understandably so. You could buy a street of houses 30 years ago for £5,000. Nobody wanted to live here. This place, and there were naysayers, has put life and spirit and energy into the city, and then the city starts to evolve. Because if you're going to live here, surely you want to live here with nicer facilities, with shops, etc. You know, not boarded up houses and streets all knackered, and you know, it's not like that. I think it's changed. It was an amazing place to live up to maybe the 70s, until we had the start of maybe a bit of a decline in the UK, of which punk was a reflection on that. It was a great place to live. The sense of community is still here. You can taste that. It's in the DNA of this city.
Yeah, in Greater Manchester, I think there is something about...
It's there.
Yeah.
Honestly, you get on the train in London, I used to do it every week and think, bloody hell, it's a bit cold, a bit unfriendly. You know, going down and you get off at the other end and think, ooh, home. Honestly.
Yeah. No, I've been there, done that. The move from Oxford Road, I remember going to Oxford Road doing work experience at BBC GMR. Did you think when you were moving out there, excitement, or was there an element of sadness moving? When you were even there then?
I came here the year after they moved here.
Did you?
But I used to work there at a TV programme when I was young, and I used to work at Oxford Road doing telly.
And is there an element of sadness that one's gone? Because there's a bit of history on that old Oxford Road.
No, there's not, because it wasn't in Oxford Road originally. It was at Piccadilly Gardens.
Yeah.
And they had a place, was it Dickinson Road, where they used to film Top of the Pops?
It was Dickinson Road, yeah.
No, that building was one of the awful 50s, 60s buildings that was put up when they knocked part of Old Manchester down, a concrete monstrosity. I mean, not for me. There's no emotional connect with that at all, sorry.
And do you have the emotional connect with this one? Do you see that the place like Granada Television have that element of
it was lovely.
Wow,
it was great.
Do you think we're gonna get that kind of atmosphere coming out of Media City?
I don't see why not. I really don't see why not. It might, because of technology and AI, constrict a little bit, although maybe it won't, and maybe other forms of media and other forms of technology will actually end up on what we call Media City.
Now, as I say, we're trying to, you've got stuff to do, but I also want to know, because you've been so long in local, and there's always news stories about, the changing audiences, and is local going to exist, and how people are going to get their radio. Where do you see the future of shows like yours, of Radio Manchester and things like that?
I think local radio, I think radio will always have a life. You can only listen to radio for entertainment, not a podcast, because a podcast is an entity that's been done for you.
Yeah.
But spontaneous, organic information and entertainment, if you're in a car without a radio, you're knackered. You can listen to music, of course you can. You can listen to your podcast, of course you can. You can't find out what the news is that moment in time, or find a song on that you didn't expect to hear, that you've not programmed. We at BBC Radio Manchester, our audience has not shrunk the way it was predicted 5 years ago. Managed decline was the term. So we should be here at the end of, it's radio, isn't it? I just realised I did a slopey...
I don't want to teach you how to do radio, Mark.
It's a slopey graph I just did with a low part and a high point. And we should be the low point now. And it's not, because you want to listen to radio when you get to a certain age. So you can drift into radio at 45, 50 maybe, and then stay with it, because it is completely organic. It changes from day to day, from hour to hour, minute to minute. I see a life will have to evolve, and AI is arriving, so that'll be an interesting part of broadcasting for the future. But no, I think radio has to evolve. Of course we do. You can't have the same type of jingles. You can't have presenters coming on presenting the way they did 15 years ago. Evolve, have energy, but, and again, we've got young people here. Do you know, all my producers and colleagues mostly are kids with a capital K, not with a pejorative K. Good, talented kids who love radio. they're already banging energy. I'm like this because I'm working with young people every day. And I can't go in there and go, hello, I'm Mike Sweeney, where's my comfy chair? It's not like that. No, I think there's a great future for radio.
I can't wait to see someone try and do an AI version of you. um, well, I think I can wait. Before we go, tell me what's happening next for you, because obviously you've got loads. You say you're the busiest you've been for
Honestly,
donkey's years. Where are we going to hear from you, see from you next?
So the future for me, I've decided when I started to de-stress my life after having the stroke. So I don't chase stuff anymore. Stuff's still coming. So if I get Radio 2 or 5 Live or Radio 4 asking me to do stuff, that'll be part of me going forward. I won't chase them. I want to be where I am at BBC Radio Manchester. That's my life, 4 days of my life, which I adore. So I think you've got to have ambition, but you've also got to lack stress. If I was younger, I'd still be chasing everybody. But I've realised that some stuff will come, yay or nay. I do bits of telly. I've been doing stuff for Morning Live now for about 3 years. When they want somebody with my skill set, which that's the other thing I understand, that if you want to talk about what we've been talking about today, if you want to talk about working class culture, the north of England, rock and roll, and a lot of other recreation, entertainment associated with me and my background, I can do that. That's my skill set. I'm highly unlikely to go on the air or in Vision and talk about, say, being pretty or being an expert on Picasso or even though I quoted Shakespeare earlier, or Shakespeare. But I still feel I've got stuff to offer, but that'll either arrive or it won't. But my programme, my daily programme, massively important. There are people that trust me to deliver that every day, and that's not something that I want to ever let them down on.
And you've gone on about working class, and you're the first person to taught Shakespeare to us. So what can I say? So no thoughts about hanging up the microphone or anything like that. We've got you for a while.
Yeah, I'm not saying that I would never want to do less, but that would only because I'm getting older and I want to do a bit more recreationally.
Pick up your football career.
Well, I'm still playing for the England over 75s.
Exactly.
We're playing Wales in a couple of weeks. I want to have this energy level. That's my only thought where I am a little bit possessive. I want to keep these energy levels the way they are. And part of me is an angry, wild, 18-year-old Salfordian, which sometimes I've got to be careful I can keep him under control. I don't want to lose that either. I don't want to ever lose that edge. You know what I mean?
We started with that fashion about you, that picture of you going to hearing the Beatles for the first time. I think we've kind of ended there as well. So
exactly.
That seems absolutely perfect.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you ever so much for coming on the show. Thank you for watching or listening to this week's This Is Media City, which is a 39 Pictures production on behalf of Media City and in partnership with the University of Salford and all the team behind the camera here are graduates and undergraduates from the university. So please remember to like, subscribe, comment and share, and we will see you next week. The production team are Meg Bond, Tegan Easton, Akila Hewitt and James Young.